Hi guys, this is Tanya again, and I'm back doing pretty much like a part two of the prior video that I did. And so this video is about bringing awareness to a condition called Developmental Topographical Disorientation, or DTD, as I will refer to it. And it's basically where an individual's brain cannot retain a mental map of their environment. So that means that an individual, in a nutshell, will get lost frequently, and lost in places that they are very, very familiar with. Um, and as I mentioned in the last video, it's a very isolating condition. Most people think that they are the only ones dealing with it. And like I did, I thought I was the only person. I thought I was alone. I had never heard of it. I had never known anybody else who dealt with any type of situation like that or condition. So a lot of times I just felt stupid. I just felt slow. I felt embarrassed, ashamed, guilty. And I just want to get into some experiences that I've had. I know I shared a little bit in the other video. But like I say, it has affected me all my life. And it has been so deeply ingrained in how I've made decisions, how I felt about myself, how I've lived, career choices and things that I chose to do for a living, all of those things. So I did jot some things down so I wouldn't forget. And so I just wanted to shed a little light on, and especially those who are suffering with this. I want them to be able to watch and be like, hey, oh my gosh, I go through that too, because that's what it's all about. I don't want people to feel alone like I have over these 45 years, that I have felt completely alone with this condition. So, one thing is, starting from childhood, how it affected me then, because of course I didn't have to drive then. I was too young. So I would get lost in buildings a lot. Let's say I remember one instance where I was at church, and it was a very large church. It was a Catholic church. And I was in the church, and, I think I had went in, I don't know, I was just running around. It may have been after service or whatever. And I remember getting turned around and getting lost inside the church. And there have been many instances like that. As far as school, I remember in elementary school, you go to school every day, you get familiar with your classrooms and where to go and things like that. But it would be a struggle for me. Like I say, luckily, I was a child, so that's back when the teacher would put you in a line, and, everybody would follow in a single file line to the cafeteria or whatever. But as I got older and, had to navigate through school on my own, a lot of times I would go into my classroom, and sometimes I would have difficulty finding the classroom. But I would go to the classroom, and I would have an assigned seat, and I would go into the wrong seat. And I couldn't remember where I sat. And so then another student would come in and be like, why are you sitting in my seat? And have an attitude or whatever. And I would have to play it off like, is it really a big deal? even though it was really because I didn't remember where I sat. So it's things like that. And I was already coming from a place of being very self-conscious because in my early years, my grandmother on my mom's side, she was a caretaker for me. She, helped raise me for my childhood years. And she was a very mean person. She treated me really badly. And she made me feel stupid, and she made me, feel fat, and she called me names, and I felt zero love from her, zero. Um, so I was already coming from a place of feeling less than, um, and feeling very, you know, like I didn't matter. That's how she made me feel. Like the dirt on the bottom of somebody's shoe. That's how she made me feel. And she played a part in raising me and my cousin. And she loved my cousin a lot. And she treated her very well. So, as you can imagine, me and my cousin were like 2 months apart. And from babies to about maybe, I'd say 5, 6, she played a big, huge part in raising us. And so I was completely damaged by her. And then on top of that, I have this condition. So combine those two things, and it's a complete recipe for disaster. And that's what it was. I was already feeling lower than low because of that. Thank God I had a loving mom who really loved me. And I don't think she even knew what I was really going through with my grandmother. Or maybe she couldn't help it at the time because she needed my grandmother's help raising me. So there's that. And so it's just been a real struggle. And I dealt with that low self-esteem all my life. Of course, it got better over time, but it was still there. And it's just an awful feeling. And I know a lot of people can relate to that because a lot of people are hurt in their childhood by people in a lot of different ways. So maybe, well, I'm not going to say maybe that's why I didn't talk about this condition, because like I say, I didn't know that it was a condition. Like if you have a disease, other people have certain diseases, that disease is acknowledged, is real, and there's treatments, or they're looking for treatments, or whatever the case may be. You can talk about this issue that you have, and people can have an understanding. But with this, there was no condition, there was no terminology, there were no words, there was no description, there was no nothing. So I really didn't have a way to express what it was. So that's why these videos are so important to me. And that's why it's something that I knew that I had to do. I just knew that I had to do this, because on January 1st, when I learned that what I was dealing with had a name, it was life-changing, and it is life-changing for me. Because how can you even deal with something until you recognize it? How can you deal with something until you can acknowledge it? And that's with anything. We sometimes live our life through traumas and things that we've gone through, and it's so ingrained, and it's in our subconscious, and we can tell ourselves one thing, but we're going to react out of that thing, out of that subconscious mind, and we're going to make choices. Now, we can, fool ourselves and try to convince ourselves that something isn't going on and push it down and deny it. But the choices that we make will tell the story. And I know that's the case for me. I did mention in the earlier video that this condition has affected my relationships, my choices, my career path, and all of that. And it has in so many ways, because when you are living in that level of shame and embarrassment, I made decisions out of that shame, whether I knew it or not. I accepted relationships that were no good for me, that were beneath me, because of my self-esteem was so low. And even with friendships, I really couldn't get close to anybody. And like I say, not only because of this disorder, but also because of childhood trauma and wounds that I hadn't healed from. Those things, and the further along in life you go without dealing with those things, the deeper they take root. I mean, this shame and low self-esteem and things like that was rooted in me before I even know who I was, before, while my personality was forming, which I believe they say your personality forms between birth and 5 years old, or 9 years old, or something like that. It was already shame, rejection, hurt, confusion, low self-esteem, low self-worth, self-hatred, and all of that. So, of course, that's going to affect my life. And it did in a very negative way. And then the fact that I'm an only child. I lost my mother at an early age. I lost her at 25. And it's already devastating to lose a parent. And being an only child and losing my mom, I can't even really verbalize that type of pain. And then the isolation and the loneliness that comes with that, because I don't have a brother, sister, or uncle, or anybody to really turn to. Now, I had my stepfather, but after my mom passed, he kind of went, he moved out of state not long after. And I loved him to pieces, don't get me wrong, but then I lost him as well. So I'm just saying all this to say that I really want these videos, and I'm going to keep doing them. I want these videos to get out there because I know how alone and isolated I felt. And I feel now. And of course, right, I feel so much better to know about this condition. But, I have a long way to go. So I guess as far as career choices, I've always wanted to do real estate. And I still do. But then I was thinking about, okay, how am I going to be a real estate agent and drive people around? Which you don't really have to do that so much anymore. Because, we have the internet. You can just look up a property that you're interested in, call the real estate agent. And, for lack of a better word, a normal person, okay, no problem, But for me, okay, I'm thinking about, am I going to be able to get there in a timely manner? What if I get lost? And even, let's go a step further, showing a home. I get twisted around all the time. I wouldn't remember where certain things are in a new home. Like, it's just so beyond. So that turns me away. It turns me away from a lot of things that I've wanted to do. Vacations, fear of traveling on my own, fear of taking my children places because I don't want to get lost. I don't want to get lost with them. And this thing goes so deep that even if I go to sleep and have a dream, I have dreamed so many times I've gotten lost in my dreams. Like literally lost in my dreams. And it's a lot of other things that go into this type of disorder. Like I can be in a place and it'll look totally different. Not totally different, but it'll look off. And I think they said that's a part of like spatial recognition is what they call it. And some people with this condition, they say that it'll look like the area or environment that they're in has kind of turned a little bit. And it's really weird, you guys. I mean, it's weird for me to process. Like, I know that this sounds totally odd. I know that this sounds like weird. Like, what? I mean, like, how can you go down this same path 50 times and you still make the wrong turn? I'm telling you, it is something else. So, now there are some paths that I have memorized, not learned, but memorized. But it's not that many. It's not that many. So I just wanted to do another video because the house is quiet. My kids aren't here right now and it's quiet. So I said, let me go ahead and try to knock out another one while I can. And so like I say, if anybody is suffering with this, I'm going to put the link to the the website that has a lot of different information on this disorder. And the research is really fairly new with this, and more people are becoming aware of DTD. And I will also link the Facebook group. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. I hope I can shed more and more light on this condition, and I hope that I bring awareness to this condition to help somebody. So thank you. You guys have a good night.